Sonic the Hedgehog, the mascot character who's been floundering for over 2 decades without a console of his own. Sega's attempts to fit Sonic into a 3D world have been so wildly inconsistent, they've resorted to creating multiple versions of him. You've got edgy gun-toting Sonic, time-traveling psychic Sonic, Where Sonic, storybook Sonic, movie Sonic, anime Sonic, and now open-world Sonic. It's high time for Sonic to become the first video game character to retire from games and focus on other media, like movies, TV shows, and comics where he actually has some momentum. Pro wrestlers turn to movies after one too many head injuries, so why can't Sonic after one too many faceplants into a spring pad? The newest game, Sonic Frontiers, follows the all-too-familiar pattern. Sega announces a Sonic game that offers a new twist on the tired gameplay. Fans get excited, then the game releases and barely manages tepid reviews, which translates into Game of the Year to the ears of Sonic fans. I don't normally mock fans, but I feel uncomfortable around people who could destroy my life for no reason on a whim. Cops, politicians, lawyers, women. But Sonic fans are among the only game fandom I worry about crossing, because they never forget those who sneer at the franchise. So convinced by the moans escaping from Sonic's remaining brainstem as signs of life, they refuse to cut the life support. By all accounts, I should be a huge Sonic fan, or at least someone who carries a torch for it. Let's go back to the old days, when I was a kid and my parents mistakenly bought me a Sega Genesis for Christmas instead of a Super Nintendo. It came with a copy of Sonic and Tails. It was fun, had a great soundtrack, and gave me my first case of anxiety when I drowned in Chemical Zone Act 2, and that music started playing. I was playing Sonic and Tails the night my dad was released early from prison, so it forever has a positive place in my memory that no other game can. So Sonic being unable to get his hooks into me past the old 2D games says a lot about the modern 3D Sonic games. The few games that successfully transitioned from 2D to 3D is a small number, and Sonic is not one of them. And 25 years of attempting to make Sonic into a three-dimensional game have all fallen flat, which is how the series should have stayed. Flat, as in a single 2D plane. Sonic's only appeal is going fast, as most of the theme songs will tell you, and going fast in a platformer works well when you only have to worry about moving right. The second you add a Z-axis into the mix, it all falls apart. Probably explains why so much of what you do in a modern Sonic game is let the game autoplay itself most of the time, with you only having to input a single button press to send Sonic flying toward the next spring or enemy to jump off to land on a grind rail, where you once again do nothing as Sonic moves along a fixed path. I would say gameplay is the main flaw, but the bigger issue is Sega trying to tell detailed stories in Sonic. Instead of creating a believable and simple narrative for a speedy cyclopean blue hedgehog, they took inspiration from Dragon Ball and pit Sonic against gods and aliens that threaten to destroy his planet. It's like they're trying to make a serious drama out of a character whose main appeal is running really fast and fighting robot animals. That's a level of grandiosity that Sonic was never meant to reach. He lacks the character or the charisma to carry it. Not to mention the acting. Everyone has expressed how weirded out they are by Mario being voiced by Chris Pratt. Meanwhile, Sonic has been uncomfortably voiced for decades by the likes of Steve Urkel and Chris Redfield. The game begins with Robotnik, or Eggman, whichever one he goes by now, hacking a giant stone throne before being sucked into cyberspace. That's the term they use for it, by the way. The same name your grandpa who still holds onto a collection of AOL CD-ROMs for a 1-hour free trial of the internet in his house. And then Sonic, Tails, and Amy conveniently fly over the same island to get sucked in and digitize as well. I won't pretend to understand how any of this works, since the game makes zero effort to explain it, so I just figured the developers binge-watched several seasons of Digimon, and figured they could mesh that with all the other media Sonic rips from. The first thing you're dropped into is a recreation of an old Sonic level. I'm guessing Green Hill Zone, or one of the dozen levels that look identical to Green Hill Zone, which by this point makes this the second or third Sonic game to employ the same nostalgia trap to lure people in.
Are you saying I can rescue my friends?
Find the Chaos Emeralds. Destroy the Titans. Tear down the walls between dimensions.
Sonic can escape from cyberspace because he can run fast, while Amy and Tails remain stuck inside. He then hears an ominous disembodied voice that tells him that to rescue his friends, he needs to defeat a number of Titans and tear down the walls between dimensions. Sonic doesn't question this at all, and sets out to walk right into the obvious trap laid down by the voice in the sky. After that, you're free to begin exploring the biggest Sonic game yet. As your mom will tell you, anyone who brags about being big isn't as fun as they claim. This open world wouldn't even feel like it belongs in Sonic if it wasn't for all the springs and grind rails haphazardly dotting the map with no care given to aesthetics. Thankfully, most of them are invisible until you get within 10 feet of them and then they pop into existence. This place could have been a map in any bog-standard Battle Royale game, which seems like a major failing, since Sonic takes place in a world where one level can have you jumping around a city designed by pinball and slot machine enthusiasts, to an oil-filled sea covered in drilling platforms, to neon glowing caves, and pretty much anything you can imagine. But somehow the best Sonic Frontiers can offer is sprawling green fields, a bland desert, and then more sprawling green fields as someone spilled plumbing pipes and spring pads all over. Making an open world game before you even figured out how to make a linear 3D Sonic game just screams, I'm coming with issues. Combat feels like a strange thing to even address in what is supposed to be a platformer. Most of the world is devoid of enemies except for small groups here and there that are easily dispatched by any of Sonic's plethora of moves that he spends 3 seconds preparing an animation of. The only exception are the boss fights scattered throughout the map, and I will say these seem to have gotten the lion's share of effort. My favorite being the one that leaves a grind rail in its wake that you have to race up in order to attack. It's a good implementation of Sonic's core gameplay loop. Be fast and jump into the enemy, whereas everything else has you doing floaty karate and energy blasts. Collecting things has been how platformers normally work, but with this game it feels more like Sonic has gotten involved with a convoluted cryptocurrency scheme. To speak with his friends he needs to collect tokens before they'll even give him their attention. Then to open the way to challenge levels you need gears which you get from defeating bosses in the field, and you earn vault keys from challenges within the traditional Sonic levels, which you need to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds to fight the Titan of each zone. There's even a special collectible during nighttime when meteorites fall from the sky for you to collect that activate a slot rail that covers valuable screen real estate when trying to platform. Your reward for playing slots are fishing tokens, which you can use at Biggs the Cat's fishing hole where he charges you money to fish on property he doesn't own. And do you care to guess what you get from fishing? You earn 2 new collectibles, golden tickets and fish points, which you can use to buy gears, keys, and friendship tokens so you don't have to go through all the crap the game tasks you with. Finally, you have to collect 2 different types of seeds to level up attack and defense, and cute living statues called Coco if you want to level up Sonic's speed and ring carrying capacity. And you have to go through the same series of collecting things in all but one of the game's 5 zones. In a strange twist of irony, these challenge levels serve the same purpose as the bonus stages in the old Sonic games. If you ever play the 2D games, you might recall that during regular Sonic levels, you would jump into a big ring and then complete a bonus course that would reward you with a Chaos Emerald. In Sonic Frontiers, the old school regular Sonic levels are the bonus levels now that you need to get emeralds. Sonic's friends will just ignore him in their Tamagotchi forms if he doesn't feed them with their favorite emoji. They refuse to say anything to Sonic until he pays up. A new Sonic game means a new character is going to be introduced. The new disturbing fan art target is the lolly AI girl, Sage. Every Sonic game that adds a new villain just retreads Knuckles' original storyline. They end up mistakenly believing Sonic is a villain, only to realize later that Sonic is a good guy and eventually side with him. You have no shortage of examples. Knuckles, Silver, Shadow. I honestly know nothing about Shadow and I refuse to look through a Sonic wiki to find out. Considering just how Dragon Ball inspired this game is, Sonic should find himself in a similar crater as Yamcha once ingloriously did after taking that hit.
This Coco says they need to find their one true love before it's too late. They've been too shy to express their feelings, but if they don't do it now, they may never get the chance.
In the past, Amy's thirst for Sonic was the stuff of legend and not safe for work fan art, but Sega has finally come to their senses and realized their obsession with the Blue Hedgehog could never compare to the horny devotion of fans. They've made the bold move of having Amy move on from Sonic and instead play Cupid for the various Coco she encounters, forcing Sonic to participate in bizarre minigames in order to help these couples find love.
I appear to be in a digital dimension.
Just say simulation, that's what a digital dimension would be.
Note to self, don't admit that to anyone.
Hold up, that thing on Eggman's chest was more than a clasp, but a voice recorder as well?
Maybe, if you use that new technique of yours, you can clean up all this wild brush.
Who thought it would be a fun idea if Sonic were to be paid a Chaos Emerald for mowing a lawn?
When this is over, I want to share that love with the world. Even though it may take us far apart.
Amy has finally decided to start her OnlyFans account, I see. The fans rejoiced. I didn't see it when the Titan attacked earlier, but somehow the final Chaos Emerald is on top of its head, so Sonic has to climb and retrieve it. If the voice from the sky telling Sonic to hunt and destroy Titans wasn't enough, climbing them in order to destroy them should clue you into the game's nods towards Shadow of the Colossus, which I doubt is nodding back in response, and is hurriedly averting its eyes and walking away, because that game is the antithesis to this. There, the empty world served the purpose of creating a sense of loneliness, and climbing a Colossus took preparation and care, and killing it left you with a profound sense of loss and the dirty feeling of a criminal who knows he's done something wrong. Whereas Sonic transforms into his legally distinct Super Saiyan mode, Super Sonic, and battles the Titan by flying around and punching it until it dies, while alternative rock plays. Every time you reach a new zone, something will shoot Sonic out of the sky, causing the Chaos Emeralds to fly off and be contained inside a new set of vaults you need keys to open. It's never explained what shoots Sonic down, nor does it bother explaining how the ancients powered this place with only 7 Chaos Emeralds, when 4 of the 5 zones required all 7 for its own facilities.
What are you doing so far from home?
I was investigating some strange ruins when I was transported here, then got trapped.
If you recall, Knuckles was not on Tails' plane when they were sucked into cyberspace. He's trapped in it nonetheless, and the game just shrugs its shoulders when asked for an explanation. Would it have really been that hard to add Knuckles to the opening cutscene so his appearance here would have made sense? How can Knuckles block a laser beam from Sage when he's a digital ghost? Sonic's hand went right through him earlier.
Can you see that seal in the center of the pond? If we could pull it out, we could drain the water.
The mechanism for pulling the plug is to fire a massive artillery round into it, which of course activates a pyramid to pull it up. No doubt that was the intended process for using it.
These Coco are supposed to link up with another unit, but an enemy has them pinned down here.
All three of Sonic's friends have adventures where they do something to help the Coco find peace. But honestly, it feels like a waste of time since they're just reliving past events with no connection to reality. For instance, how could the enemy have them pinned down when the enemies is a bunch of drills going up and down with Coco under them, which also seemed unharmed by the crushing. Also, the minigame explains that Sonic will move faster with every Coco he carries, which upends everything I know about physics, which states more mass requires more energy to move. Occasionally, you see scenes from the past where the ancients were battling some unknown force. Here, the ancients erected a giant defensive wall to protect themselves from an enemy in space who fires lasers from orbit. I'm beginning to see why they all died.
Have you been here before? You're navigating the island like it's nothing.
Oh no, see, when I interact with these things marked with this symbol, I automatically learn the lay of the land.
Perhaps Sonic's freakish bipupiled single eye is actually an augmented reality headset, and that's why he can see game UI elements.
This looks like ruins from back home.
If you say so. I see no resemblance to anything from Sonic 3 or Sonic & Knuckles.
It reminds me I'm the last Echidna. That I'm alone.
You may be the last, but you're not alone. You've got us, Knucklehead.
You may be doomed to spend the rest of your life with no actual family or mate, but you're friends with Sonic. That has to count for something. This game also features Sonic's friends deciding they don't need him anymore, and each of them deciding to do their own thing for a while, which I approve of. The less of these side characters the better. It's just strange they all decide to do it at the same time. How did you fist bump? Knuckles isn't actually there. He's inside the cyberspace dimension.
I don't think this ancient machinery was active before. Any idea what changed?
Something similar happened on the last island. Let's just call it a little divine intervention.
The other term you could use is bullshit, since in every zone the puzzle that unlocks the Titan fight is locked until you find 6 Chaos Emeralds, after which it becomes available to solve.
Wait, Sonic. You're still missing a Chaos Emerald, aren't you? Oh, that thing will tear you to shreds.
The last Titan was holding the final emerald. I'm willing to bet it's the same deal here.
But why? Those emeralds split off from you after you were shot down. Why would one of the emeralds be with the Titan in this zone? And how come you never need vault keys to get the crystal from it?
Not bad. Things would have been over faster if I'd been Super Knuckles.
When has Super Knuckles ever been a thing outside of Sonic Mania? And you just turned purple. New zone, same story. Sonic is shot out of the sky by some unidentified weapon that is never explained and loses the Chaos Emeralds, which means you'll be finding them again for the 3rd time.
The spatial anomaly that affected us seems to have left me in a digitized state. But those same energies are manifesting into some worrisome mutations for you.
Those sure are words you said just now.
They sure were. I wish they meant something.
While you were online, it opened up a flood of data. It was way too much to process, but I did get a glimpse of the Ancients' personal data.
Oh, so... what, you know all their birthdays now?
Much more than that. Sonic, it was their very essences. Their hopes, their dreams, everything that made them what they were.
Miles Zuckerberg Tails here has been going through the Ancients' data and learned nothing important that would help them. I would assume the Ancients left memories behind on what wiped them out, but apparently they decided not to warn anyone. Keeping to its rigid formula, Sage shows up and sticks another Titan on Sonic, even though every time Sonic has a moment with one of his friends, she's in the distance fangirling over how compassionate he is.
Whatever assaulted the island sure packed a punch. That was on par with Dark Gaia easy.
I'm sure there are discrepancies in these references of past Sonic games, but I'll be damned if I'm studying Sonic lore to find them. Computer hacking is an Ikaruga clone. Weird inclusion for a Sonic game. Sonic and Tails have no reason to mess with a destroyed egg robot, but good thing for them, that destroyed Eggman robot was lying in that position where its laser was perfectly aimed to blow an opening in the ground, to the area Sonic didn't even know existed and needed to access.
This Coco is an apprentice to their top pilot. They need to find the parts to complete their final weapons.
Assisting Tails by helping Coco find peace means a very annoying minigame where you have to collect pieces of material by breaking crates. There's no reason this should be timed. Sonic is only collecting parts to fix something. What actually happens if he doesn't collect them fast enough? Teleportation is always used to be a dick.
Your imprisonment within cyberspace. The defeat of the Ancients' Titans. Do you trust how he is handling it? With your life?
Sage pops up to pull Tails on how satisfied he is with his experience, and how likely he is to recommend Sonic to his friends.
What is your end goal?
It varies. Sometimes it's a spinning sign, sometimes it's a big old ring.
No, I mean, what do you want to accomplish?
Oh. Gather up the Chaos Emeralds and save my friends.
And you're sure that is wise?
Kind of the story of my life.
Even this game knows that Sonic games are formulaic, but doesn't want to change that about itself. It's like if Mario still had to put up with the princess being in another castle for 30 years worth of games.
I have found the most optimal course of action is to create an alliance with Sonic.
What?
But together you stopped the Ark, overcame Neo Metal. You...
I don't want to hear it. Those alliances were purely out of desperation.
And this isn't one of those times. If you've joined with Sonic twice in the past, what does one more alliance even matter?
Hey, who was it who stopped Eggman from blowing up Station Square, huh? And who broke me out of prison, or saved me from the Deadly Six's trap?
Why is this particular zone a rundown memory lane of all the other Sonic games?
You've got brains like Eggman, speed like me, and can fly with your butt.
That last one is kind of weird, not gonna lie. I tried running up this exact same raised bridge before this cutscene and ran into an invisible wall, which is always a great sign in your open world game. Also, this is another minigame that is timed for no good reason. Sonic ran up a raised bridge and launched himself into the sky, but if he doesn't fall fast enough, it's game over. He's still going to reach the ground regardless of his timing, I swear, and he just needs to hit the button on the other side to lower the bridge. Hell, I need to question why after running up the bridge he then launched himself several times its length straight up into the air, when all he needed to do was cross the gap.
Hey little bro, feeling better?
Yeah, this whole experience gave me a kind of clarity. When this is all over, I think I need to go it alone for a while.
The same revelation that Knuckles and Amy's came to, huh? How wonderful. They all grow as characters, but into the same character.
Great, so how do we open it?
See that switch next to the door? I think it'll react to the cyber energy stored in your body.
Based off what? Cyber energy stored in the body? You can just make up anything to move the plot in a Sonic game, can't you? On the other side of the door is a giant pinball machine that requires you to get 5 million points. Once you do, it triggers a volcanic eruption that seems to cover the entrance in lava, trapping whoever used it inside. Except for Sonic, I guess. The ancients were stupid. The purpose of the eruption was to pour lava into the crater, which for some reason clears it of fog so you can see the Titan hiding inside it.
Hey, I've seen my fair share of pinball machines. I know one when I see one. Were those really part of the original ruins? I mean, the tech here outpaces Eggman's and is older than old. Well, I guess the love of pinball predates civilization.
I can't wait to learn that the nuclear codes are uploaded by beating the former president's high score in pinball. I like to believe this fight is a subtle reference to Sonic and the Black Knight. I couldn't help but notice I didn't want to mention some of the worst Sonic games in their direct references. Nothing shot Sonic out of the sky this time to make him lose the Chaos Emeralds. They're just gone once the camera cuts back to him after the fight. Presumably it's due to cyber infection or whatever. Sonic is slowly being corrupted by cyber infection. I suppose this is Sega's take on the corruption the main character undergoes in Shadow of the Colossus, but that had emotion and meaning. This only leads to a cringy scene on the power of friendship.
The final lock has been revealed. Silence the 6 towers. Tear down the walls between dimensions.
Maybe question the creepy voice directing you to do all this. There's no reason to trust it, and you're clearly dying as you go about it. This zone doesn't have you collect Chaos Emeralds and fight a Titan, instead requiring you to climb 6 towers and switch them off. It's the game's platforming challenge section, and serves to show off how annoying the platforming is when it focuses on it exclusively. Often the game likes to rob you of camera control and switch between on-rails movement and letting you move freely on a whim. Once I got to the top of a tower and couldn't even jump off because the camera and movement was locked. Every time Sonic shuts down one of the towers, he gets a glimpse of the final days of the Ancients. You would think they would have stored all these in one file to make it explicitly clear that turning off the towers is a bad idea, instead of one memory per tower, meaning you're incentivized to turn off their seal to learn why the seal was needed in the first place. Turns out the Ancients were an alien race that used the Chaos Emeralds to escape from their homeworld before it was destroyed by some great evil, and then the thing that destroyed their homeworld followed them, which led to them constructing the Titans to fight it. All of these revelations about aliens and world-destroying power, and Sonic doesn't seem to care a bit about it. He shows zero interest in the things he's seeing, so I don't either. The only thing that can slow Sonic down is apparently the Bitcoin miner installed into him, or whatever the hell cyber corruption is.
I want you to see the hero I become.
Sonic, you still have love to share with this world too.
They hold hands around Sonic and it performs a virus sweep on him, I think. Sonic had better positive messaging back in the 90s cartoon when he warned kids not to allow pedophiles to touch them.
Sage, you will help me find the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic won't be fast enough.
All the help Sage begs Eggman to offer boils down to him finding one Chaos Emerald that there was no reason Sonic couldn't find on his own. After all, he's collected all of them 3 times already in this game. Out of all the millions of simulations Jade ran where they failed, the one where Eggman finds a single crystal and gives it to Sonic is a defining point of victory. In the new zone, you still have to collect cutscene currency to talk to Jade. Even though she isn't like Sonic's 3 friends who are trapped in cyberspace, she's had no problem talking to Sonic whenever she wanted.
I had secured Dr. Eggman in cyberspace to protect him from the impending destruction. I had hoped to keep out external variables as well.
I understand now why you locked my friends in the cyber cages and fought me. I wasn't exactly going to leave the Titans alone either. It's too late for an I'm sorry from either of us.
Like hell she can't apologize. Sonic asked her on more than one occasion what she wanted, and even offered to help her and she kept brushing him off. Jade is supposed to be a super intelligent AI system, and all she did was make things worse by sicking the Titans on Sonic, even though she knew that destroying the Titans was a bad thing.
It looks like Tails was right. The ruins were tech the ancients used to upload thoughts into cyberspace, but not their bodies.
How come Eggman, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles all had their bodies uploaded to cyberspace if the ancients didn't build it for that?
The village is missing when everything else is so detailed.
The ancients had a difficult time adapting to this world, adjusting to the new flora and fauna, dealing with technological incompatibilities. Their settlements were under constant revision.
Most of the final conversations with ChatGPT-chan are lore dumps on the ancients as the game tries to explain why this world is so void of anything interesting.
Alright, hear me out. Do you think all those locations I visited were pulled from my memories?
That is plausible. It imported the data of your memories and applied it to your surroundings, so you could comprehend them.
Maybe that gave me the edge I needed to escape each time. I was covering familiar ground.
Covering familiar ground? Didn't you have an entire game or two that already did that though? Sonic Generations, for instance.
So, earlier you said I had 0 chances of winning. You change your mind yet?
No. But I have not run a simulation on our present circumstances either.
You ran millions of simulations earlier, meaning you can run them pretty fast. Yet you haven't bothered running one on your new plan.
You're not fast enough, so I found it for you. Go ahead and beat that giant!
What a powerhouse alliance has turned out to be.
Don't you dare lose it!
Now why would I want to disappoint you?
You've lost them 3 times already. Eggman is right to be worried. With that name and logo, I'm surprised Sega hasn't been sued for copyright infringement by Supreme. Isn't beating this Titan exactly what the evil thing inside it wants? So why are they so gung-ho on following its plans? It's currently sealed up inside the Supreme Titan. Just leave it there. If you play the game on hard mode, you get the true final boss, Sonic and Sage teaming up with the Supreme Titan to attack the moon, which is the evil that destroyed the ancients. They could have at least made the end a creepy moon, something like Majora's Mask did to make the moon look threatening. This is just a purple rock with a gentle voice that for some unexplained reason just wants to destroy all life. You've got to be kidding me. You had Sonic rip off the most famous scene from Akira that isn't the motorcycle slide? Sage sacrifices herself to stop the explosion from destroying the planet, but since this is a Sonic game, you know that won't stick. Her death lasts as long as the end credits, when Eggman revives her since she's an AI and he likely had backup copies.
So, that was fun.
It most certainly wasn't.